January 18, 2015, from CenturyLink Field in Seattle, Washington. It was the NFC Conference Championship game between the Green Bay Packers and the Seattle Seahawks. And the Packers got the ball first. They started off with it on their own 20 after the opening kickoff. They were faced with a 3rd and 6 from their own 24, and then offsides would make it 3rd and 1. Eddie Lacy then ran 13 yards for a first down and bring the ball to the Green Bay 42 for the first down. Then on 2nd and 7 from the 45, they had 12 men on the field on the defense, and so now it would be 2nd and 2 from the 50. Aaron Rodgers then went to Devontae Adams. He picked up 7 yards in the first down in Seattle territory, the 43. Then Aaron Rodgers went to Randall Cobb. He picked up 14 yards in a first down. There was actually an illegal use of the hands penalty that was declined because it was a first down at the Seattle 29 for the Packers. Then a couple of incomplete passes would bring up 3rd and 10 from the 29. Out of the shotgun, Aaron Rodgers dropped back, and he was intercepted by Richard Sherman in the end zone. So it'd be a touchback for the Seahawks. And they would now take over on their own 20 after the interception with a little over 11 minutes left in the first quarter. They were then faced with a 3rd and 7 from their own 23. Russell Wilson out of the shotgun, drops back, and he's intercepted by Clinton Dix. So ran it back 26 yards, and there was a taunting penalty against Daniels of the Green Bay Packers. And so now it would be a first down for Green Bay in the red zone at the Seattle 19-yard line, with 10.5 minutes still left in the first quarter. And on first down, Aaron Rodgers went to Richard Rodgers. He picked up 12 yards in the first down that made it 1st and goal on the 7. Eddie Lacy then ran for 6 yards, and now it was second and goal on the 1. And then they gave it to Kuhn, and he punched it in from a yard out for the touchdown. But wait a minute, they actually reviewed it, and upon further review, it was actually ruled that he was down on about the 3-inch yard line. So less than a foot from the goal line. They lined up on 3rd down. They tried to punch it in with Eddie Lacy. He actually went on the left side, but he couldn't get it in. He was tackled by Malcolm Smith and Bruce Irvin. And so out would come Mason Crosby to attempt an 18-yard field goal, a kick that was shorter than an extra point attempt. And it was up and it was good. And the Packers put the first points on the scoreboard as they now led by 3 with the score Green Bay 3, Seattle 0. So now on the ensuing kickoff, there was a fumble by the Seahawks, and so Morgan Burnett ended up jumping on it. And now the Packers had the ball once again in Seattle territory to start their possession, the 2nd consecutive possession for Green Bay. This time with 8 minutes left in the first down on the Seattle 23. Eddie Lacy ran for 7 yards, and on 2nd and 3 from the 16, Lacy picked up another 9 yards, and it was now 1st and goal on the 7. Then after picking up another yard, then an incomplete pass by Rodgers brought up 3rd and goal on the 6. Aaron Rodgers to Randall Cobb. He picked up 5, but he didn't get in the end zone, and so now out would come Crosby to attempt another chip shot, this time a 19-yard field goal. It was up, it was good, and it was now 6-0 Green Bay. So now the Seahawks would get the ball after the kickoff. 5 minutes still left in the first, and they would go 3 and out. Russell Wilson was actually sacked on 2nd down by Julius Peppers, and they weren't able to recover from that. And out came the punting units. They punted from their own 20. So now the Packers would take over on their own 44 after the punt. 3.5 still left in the first. Aaron Rodgers then went to Jordy Nelson for a 15-yard reception, and it was now a first down at the Seattle 41 for the Packers. They're then faced with a 3rd and 1 at the Seattle 32. They gave it to John Kuhn. He picked up 3 yards in a first down. They brought the ball to the Seattle 29. Aaron Rodgers then went to Richard Rodgers. He picked up 11 yards in a first down in the red zone at the Seattle 18. Lacy then picked up 5 on the ground, so it was 2nd and 5 from the 13. And Aaron Rodgers finds Randall Cobb in the end zone for the 13-yard touchdown. And it was now 13-0 Green Bay over Seattle. And that brought the first quarter to a close. So after 1 quarter of play, the score was Green Bay 13, Seattle 0. And to open up the 2nd quarter of play, Green Bay kicked off to the Seahawks. And so now the Seahawks would have the ball on their own 20 to begin the 2nd quarter. And they actually got a false start, but then they started giving the ball to Marshawn Lynch. He ran it for 4 yards on 1st and 15 and another 4 on 2nd and 11. So now it's 3rd and 7 at the 23, but an incomplete pass would bring out the punting units. They went 3 and out on their first possession of the second quarter. So now the Packers would take over after the punt on the Seattle 33, as Micah Hyde had a 29-yard return on the punt to set them up in pretty much field goal range. There was about 13 minutes left before halftime. They were then faced with a 3rd and 8, but they had a false start, so now it's 3rd and 13 from the Seattle 36. Aaron Rodgers out of the shotgun. He's looking for Randall Cobb. There's an illegal use of the hands penalty against the defense, and so now it's a first down at the Seattle 31. Eddie Lacy then ran for 4 yards, and then an end around with Randall Cobb picked up 3. That set up 3rd and 3 on the 24. They gave it to Eddie Lacy, but he wasn't able to pick up the first down. He picked up 2. He got stopped short of the first down, so on 4th and 1 from the 22, out came Mason Crosby to attempt a 40-yard field goal, his 3rd field goal attempt of the game. This one from twice the distance of either of his earlier attempts. This one was up, it was good, and it was now Green Bay 16, Seattle 0. So now after the kickoff, the Seahawks would get the ball on their own 20. And on first down, Russell Wilson dropped back, and he was intercepted by Clinton Dix, as Clinton Dix comes up with a second pick of the game. There was a penalty against Green Bay for an illegal blindside block, but it would be Packers ball on their own 44 with about 9 minutes left before halftime. They did pick up a first down on a pass from Rodgers to Jordy Nelson for 23 yards that brought the ball into Seattle territory at the 33. But on first down, Rodgers out of the shotgun, dropped back, and he was intercepted by Byron Maxwell as the showers were coming down pretty heavy there in Seattle. And now the Seahawks would take over on their own 31 with about 8.5 left in the second quarter. They're then faced with a 3rd and 2 from the 39. Beast mode Marshawn Lynch then ran 14 yards for the first down that brought the ball across midfield and into Green Bay territory at the 47. They then brought in Turbin. He picked up 5 yards, and then Ricardo Lockett on an end around ran for 4 yards to make it 3rd and 1 from the 38. They gave it a beast mode, and he punched ahead for a yard for the first down at the 37. They were then faced with a 3rd and 7 on the 34, and Russell Wilson found Ricardo Lockett for a 14-yard reception. That was actually Russell Wilson's his first complete pass of the game. Up to that point, he was 0 for 5 with a couple of picks. And so then they picked up the first down. Wilson scrambled for a pair of yards, and then Lynch got stopped for no gain, and it was now the 2-minute warning. And coming out of the 2-minute warning on 3rd and 8 from the Green Bay 18, Russell Wilson out of the shotgun, intercepted by Sam Shields. So Wilson throws his 3rd pick of the first half, and now Green Bay would take over after the interception on their own 20. This was a touchback on the interception in the end zone. Less than 2 minutes left before halftime. They're then faced with a 2nd and 3 from the 27, and a pass interference call against the defense would make it a first down for the Packers on their own 32. Then a false start would move them backwards, and a couple plays later they would end up punting the ball from their own 32. So now the Seahawks would take over after the punt with about a half a minute left before halftime. And on first down from their own 26, Russell Wilson out of the shotgun was sacked by Burnett. So now the Seahawks would take their second timeout. And then a false start would bring up 2nd and 16, and Russell Wilson ended up just throwing it to Turbin. He lost a couple yards, and that brought the first half to a close. So after one half of play, the score was Green Bay 16, Seattle 0, as the Packers were shutting out the Seahawks at this point in the game, and Russell Wilson had just thrown 2 complete passes for a total of 12 yards and 3 interceptions in the first half. So now to begin the third quarter, the Seahawks would get the ball first. They had it on their own 20 after the opening kickoff of the second half. And on their first possession of the second half, they would go 3 and out as they would end up punting from their own 29. So now the Packers would get the ball on their own 39 after the punt with 13 minutes left in the third quarter. And they would go 3 and out as well on their first possession of the second half as they would end up punting from their own 48. So now Seattle would take over on their own 22 after the punt with a little less than 11 minutes still left in the third quarter. And on first down, Russell Wilson went to Kufu for an 8-yard reception. So now it's 2nd and 2 at the 30. Marshawn Lynch then picked up 11 yards in the first down at the Seattle 41. Russell Wilson then went to Doug Baldwin for an 8-yard pass. And then beast mode Marshawn Lynch ran 12 yards for the first down into Green Bay territory at the 39. But then a false start would push him back to the Green Bay 44 for 1st and 15. And Russell Wilson was sacked by Clay Matthews for a 15-yard loss. And so now it would be 2nd and 30 on the Seattle 41. And then beast mode ran 11 yards to make it 3rd and 19 at the Green Bay 48. Russell Wilson then out of the shotgun, dropped back, and he found Doug Baldwin for a 29-yard reception. And on the play, Wilson had extended it. He was moving around in the pocket. He found Baldwin wide open, and Baldwin made an amazing catch as it was thrown a little bit high, but he caught the ball. So now it's the first down in the red zone for Seattle at the Green Bay 19. Marshawn Lynch then ran for a yard, but then lost a yard on 2nd down. So now it'd be 3rd and 10, and an incomplete pass would bring out the field goal unit, as Steven Hushka would come out to attempt what would be a 36-yard field goal as they lined up and he went for the kick. But wait a minute, Jon Ryan, the punter who was holding the football, pulled it up and he started to run to the left side, but then he pulled back and he tossed the ball in the air, and it ended up being the lineman Gilliam who caught a 19-yard touchdown pass as the Seattle Seahawks put their first points on the scoreboard in this game. So it's the first career reception for Gilliam. Is on his first career reception. He gets the first touchdown for the Seahawks in this game, Gary Gilliam. So a 19-yard touchdown pass from the punter, Jon Ryan, on a fake field goal to Gary Gilliam, the offensive lineman, number 79, and it was now Green Bay 16, Seattle 7. So now after the kickoff, the Packers would have the ball on their own 20. Rodgers then went to Nelson. He picked up 12 yards in the first down at the 32, but their drive would end up stalling when on 3rd and 8. Aaron Rodgers was sacked by Cliff Averill for a 7-yard loss, and out came the punting unit after 4 plays on the possession. And the play before, Rodgers had looked a little bit, his ankle kind of seemed to roll a little bit. He planted on an incomplete pass, and then after having rolled his ankle, he ended up getting sacked on the next play. But either way, Green Bay punted from the 27, and now Seattle would take over on their own 34 with a little less than 2.5 minutes left in the 3rd quarter. And on first down, it was a bad snap, and the ball ended up kind of dropping on the ground. Russell Wilson ended up recovering it, but they lost 5 yards. They would end up going 3 and out on the possession as they would end up punting from their own 33. So now the Packers would take over on their own 13-yard line after the punt with less than a minute left in the 3rd quarter. And on first down, Eddie Lacy ran for 5 yards. He picked up another 7 yards on the ground on 2nd and 5 from the 18 as he brought the ball to the 25, and that brought the 3rd quarter to a close. So after 3 quarters of play, the score was Green Bay 16, Seattle 7. So now to begin the 4th quarter, the Packers had the ball on their own 25, and out of the shotgun they handed it off to James Starks, and he ran 32 yards all the way across midfield into the Seattle 43 for the first down. They then got a false start that moved them back to the 48. They then faced a 3rd and 7 a couple plays later from the 40, and Aaron Rodgers went to Richard Rodgers. He picked up 7 yards in the first down at the 33. Their drive would end up stalling on the 30, and out would come Mason Crosby to attempt a 48-yard field goal. It was up, and it was good, and it was now Green Bay 19, Seattle 7. So now the Seahawks would get the ball after the kickoff with 11 minutes left in regulation. They had it on their own 13-yard line to begin the possession. They would end up bringing the ball up to midfield, and they got it all the way to the 50, but they would end up having to punt it as Russell Wilson ended up being sacked by Burnett on first down from the 45, and that moved them back to the 50 as they had gotten into Green Bay territory. But from the 50-yard line is where they punted the ball after 10 plays on the possession. So now Green Bay would take over on their own 13 after the punt with 7 minutes left in regulation. They would go 3 and out on the possession and punt from their own 19. So now the Seahawks got the ball back after the punt at midfield on their own 46 with just over 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. And on first down, Russell Wilson dropped back and he was intercepted by Morgan Burnett. So now the Packers would take over on their own 43 after the interception with just 5 minutes left to play in the fourth quarter. They then tried to run out the clock as they were up by 12 points. They were handing off to Eddie Lacy, but he lost 4 yards on first down. He lost another 2 yards on second down as the Seahawks used their first and second timeouts after each run, and now it's 3rd and 16. Lacy picked up a pair, and they kept the clock moving, but the Packers went 3 and out on the possession and would punt from their own 39 as they had lost 4 yards on the possession. But after the punt, the Seahawks now had the ball on their own 31 with less than 4 minutes left to play, trailing by 2 scores. And on first down, they gave it a beast mode Marshawn Lynch. He ran 14 yards for the first down to the Seattle 45. Then out of the no huddle in the shotgun, Russell Wilson found Doug Baldwin for a 20-yard reception. And it was now a first down in Green Bay territory at the 35. An incomplete pass would bring up second down from the 35. Russell Wilson then went to beast mode Marshawn Lynch. He found him over on the right sideline, and he took it into the end zone for a 35-yard touchdown. But wait a minute, they reviewed and they saw that he had stepped out of bounds as he had actually taken 3 steps right close to the sideline, and they ruled that his 3rd step actually had been out of bounds. So they took the touchdown off the scoreboard, and it was now 1st and goal on the 9. Beast Mode then picked up 4 yards on a run, and then Russell Wilson picked up 4 yards, and now it was 3rd and goal on the 1-yard line. Russell Wilson fakes the handoff to Marshawn Lynch and takes it into the end zone himself for the 1-yard touchdown run on the option play. And it was now it was a 5-point game with the score Green Bay 19, Seattle 14. They lined up for an onside kick attempt, and it hit the tight end Bostic right in the letters, but he couldn't hold on to it as he jumped up in the air to try to grab it, and it ended up being recovered by Matthews of the Seahawks. Not Matthews of the Packers, but Matthews of the Seahawks. They both have Matthews on their teams. But so Seattle would take over on their own, well, at the 50. No one owns the 50. It's right there in the middle. So they had the ball on the 50 after the onside kick, and on first down, Russell Wilson scrambled for 15 yards in the first down to the Green Bay 35. Beast Mode then ran 3 yards, and now we are at the 2-minute warning. Then coming out of the 2-minute warning was 2nd and 7 from the Green Bay 32. Russell Wilson then found the tight end Luke Wilson for an 8-yard reception. It's now a first down at the Green Bay 24. And they handed it off out of the no huddle in the shotgun to Beast Mode, and Beast Mode took it all the way to the end zone for a 24-yard touchdown run. So he made some nice moves on the run, and he even held up right before the end zone as he stopped and was like, looked at the defense like, hey, are you really going to let me score that easy? And he just kind of stepped backwards into the end zone. They now lined up to go for a 2-point conversion as they were up by 1 with the touchdown, and the 2-point conversion would make it a 3-point game. Russell Wilson was under heavy pressure as he kept moving backwards but avoiding the pass rush, and he just threw it up in the air across the field, across his body, and somehow, someway, Luke Wilson came down with it. Clinton Dix was in the vicinity, but he wasn't able to break up the pass, and the 2-point conversion was successful, and it was now Seattle 22, Green Bay 19, as the Seahawks scored 15 points in 44 seconds of gameplay. So now after the kickoff, the Packers would take over on their own 22 with less than a minute and a half left to play in regulation, down by 3. And on first down, they wasted no time. Aaron Rodgers went to Jordy Nelson. He picked up 15 yards in the first down at the 37. Out of the no huddle in the shotgun, Aaron Rodgers then went to Randall Cobb, and he picked up a first down with a 15-yard reception that brought the ball across midfield into the Seattle 48. Still out of the no huddle in the shotgun, Aaron Rodgers pulls up and runs for it as he hopped, skipped, and jumped his way 12 yards to the first down. He actually was hopping on one leg as he went out of bounds. So now it was a first down at the 36. A pair of incomplete passes would bring up 3rd and 10. Rodgers went to Nelson. He picked up 6 yards, and Richard Sherman was there for the tackle as the Packers called a timeout with 19 seconds left to play. It was 4th and 4 as they brought out Mason Crosby to attempt a 48-yard field goal. He already made 4 field goals in the game and 1 from this distance. It was up and it was good, and this game was now now tied up at 22 apiece. So the Packers would kick off to the Seahawks, a little pudge kick, and so now the Seahawks would have it on their own 22, and with 11 seconds left, they lined up in the victory formation, although it wasn't really the victory formation in this case, as it was just a QB kneel, as they knelt on the ball and took this game to overtime. So after 4 quarters of play, this game was tied up at 22 apiece as the Seahawks somehow, someway battled back to take the lead for the first time before the Packers tied it up with that field goal in the final moments of regulation. So we're going to overtime with the score 22 apiece between the Seahawks and the Packers in the NFC Conference Championship game. So now in overtime, the Packers would kick off to the Seahawks. So Seattle would get the ball first. They had it on their own 13-yard line to start off the first possession of the overtime period. And on first down, beast mode, Marshawn Lynch ran it 4 yards to bring it to the 17-yard line for 2nd and 6. Russell Wilson then dropped back out of the shotgun. He hit Doug Baldwin for a 10-yard reception. It was now first out to 27. They then gave it a beast mode. He ran it 4 yards to bring it to the 31 for 2nd and 6. Russell Wilson was then sacked by Julius Peppers and going, and so now it was 3rd and 7 from the 30 after the sack. Still out of the shotgun, Russell Wilson drops back and he finds Doug Baldwin for a 35-yard reception, and it was now a first down in Green Bay territory at the 35. Now on first down out of the shotgun, Russell Wilson drops back, and this time he finds Jermaine Kearse for a 35-yard touchdown, and the Seattle Seahawks win, and they're going to their 2nd straight Super Bowl, as they're going to Super Bowl 49, where they'll be facing the winner of the AFC Conference Championship. But for the NFC Conference Championship, the final score, Seattle 28, Green Bay 22, as the Seahawks come from behind to erase a 16-point deficit in the NFC Conference Championship, the largest comeback victory of all time in a championship game in NFL history, as they were down 19-7 in the 4th quarter, but with just over 2 minutes left to play, Russell Wilson ended up running it in for that touchdown to make it a 5-point game, and then beast mode ran that 24-yard touchdown in with 2.5 minutes left to play, 44 seconds after they had scored that touchdown on the 1-yard run by Wilson, the 2-point conversion. Crosby then with the field goal to tie it, and in overtime on the first possession, Russell Wilson marches the Seahawks down the field and gets that touchdown pass to Kearse for the victory, as they erase that deficit and they just keep on fighting. Even with the 4 interceptions, Russell Wilson shows that you can never count them out, never count out the Seahawks, as they come from behind to win, and Russell Wilson comes up super clutch in this game. And in this game for the Seahawks, he was 14 for 29 with 209 pass yards, 1 touchdown, and 4 interceptions. That 1 lone touchdown was the game winner in overtime. So his first touchdown pass of the game winner. Aaron Rodgers was 19 for 34 with 178 pass yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 interceptions. So the Legion of Boom shut him down, held him to under 200 passing yards. The game's leading rusher was Marshawn Lynch. Beast mode had 25 carries for 157 yards and a touchdown. The leading rusher for the Green Bay Packers was Eddie Lacy, had 21 carries for 73 yards. And the leading receiver in the game was Doug Baldwin. He had 6 receptions for 106 yards. Kearse had just that 1 reception. That was the game winner, that 35-yard touchdown catch in overtime. Beast mode had 26 yards receiving, that 1 catch he had there that set up the touchdown that would begin the comeback, where they scored the 2 touchdowns in 44 seconds. Jordy Nelson had 5 receptions for 71 yards, and Randall Cobb had 7 receptions for 62 yards and a touchdown. And on defense, it was a tie for the leading tackler in this game, as Morgan Burnett had 10 tackles for the Packers. He also had 2 sacks, and Bobby Wagner also had 10 tackles, and that was for the Seahawks. So the Seahawks only had 1 sack in the game. That was Cliff Averill, who had the lone sack. Russell Wilson was sacked 5 times by the Packers. As I said, Burnett had 2 sacks. Clay Matthews had a sack. Julius Peppers had 1.5 sacks, and Going had a half sack. And the Packers intercepted Russell Wilson 4 times. Clinton Dix had 2 interceptions. Burnett had 1, and Shields had 1. And for Seattle, they had 2 pickoffs. Sherman had that pickoff on the first drive of the game in the end zone. Maxwell also had a pick. But what an amazing game is the Green Bay Packers were winning the whole time until with just a minute and a half, less than a minute and a half left before the Seahawks actually would take the lead for the first time in the game before Crosby tied it up. Crosby had 5 field goals in this game. And they'd blanked the Seahawks in the first half. It was 16-0 at halftime. But the Seattle Seahawks come back in the second half. They ended up scoring 22 points. They ended up in the second half outscoring the Packers 22-6. And in overtime, they win with that 35-yard touchdown pass, and it was a beauty. Russell Wilson's first touchdown pass of the game couldn't have come at a better time for Seattle, as they're headed back to the Super Bowl, as they will be representing the NFC in Super Bowl 49 in 2 weeks from today. So the final score in Seattle, Seahawks 28, Packers 22.